any follow-up at all?
30 days, we will have information shared.
Very good. Thank you.
My name is Don Freiling. I live at 6 Redfield Parkway, and I came here to talk about the rerouting of traffic off Park Road. Park Road has been referred to as having a minuscule effect. The rerouting of traffic on Park Road has been referred to as having a minuscule effect on traffic on Redfield Parkway and other north-south routes in the vicinity by members of the Batavia Downs board. I'll tell you what's minuscule is the actual number of accidents they're reporting as the reason for the change. I understand there have been 3 accidents of the 1 million customers that have visited last year. Does this constitute a good reason to disrupt an entire neighborhood? Members of the County Planning Board have said if they close Park Road, Redfield Parkway will become the new Park Road. Redfield is a residential street, was not built or intended for that volume of traffic. My neighbor, Nelson Baker, has photos of what we can expect if Park is closed. It was closed briefly to repair the Downs Hotel scaffolding. We had over 20 cars lined up southbound. It took over 10 minutes for another of my neighbors to navigate the street into her driveway. That's less than a quarter of a mile. That's what we can expect. A mistake was made recently to allow a donut shop at the south end of Redfield Parkway, and now they want to add to the problem with the majority of Park Road traffic. Don't let a fine city neighborhoods be ruined by county decisions. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nelson Baker. I live at 20 Redfield Parkway here in Batavia. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I'll be brief, and I'm trusting the City Council will have a meeting, an advertised meeting solely dedicated to the Park Road closure for city residents, so more residents can come and give you our opinions. I'd like to bring to your attention the January 15th temporary closing of Park Road and the chaos it brought to Redfield Parkway and the motorists that use Park Road on a daily basis. And I'd like to give you the council 2 pictures. One was taken at 4:45. One was taken an hour later at 5:45. And you can plainly see that the cars are backed up in the pictures about 17 or 18 deep. And at times they were 25 deep, going all the way back to 29 Redfield Parkway. As you can see from the photos, it wasn't a pleasant occasion for anybody, not for the residents of Redfield or not for the motorists that were used it. And oftentimes, as the cars were waiting to get onto West Main, they were cutting across the grassy medium between the north and southbound lanes of Redfield. They were going back the opposite direction, going to Richmond, making a right, and then going down Bogue Avenue, or Bogue's, which brings me to the other thing. One of my neighbors provided me with her observations of Redfield that same day, but it started a little bit earlier. It started at 2:30 in the afternoon. From 2:30 to 3:40, she never saw less than 6 to 9 cars waiting to turn onto West Main. From 4 to 5, she saw 15, 16 cars, which is what I saw a lot of the times. And then at 4:45 and at 5:45, you can see there's plenty of cars waiting to get make the turn onto West Main. If Park Road closes where the Downs wants it to close, it not only will affect Redfield Parkway, it'll affect every southbound street from Union all the way to Redfield Parkway. Park closure will make most of the Ward 4 residential streets nothing but speedways for the motorists who now use Park Road. That action alone will drastically affect the quality of life for hundreds of 4th Ward residents. The downstate that they want to use they want Park Road closed for the safety of their patrons. Well, they opened in May of 2005. It's taken them 11 years to figure out that maybe it's a dangerous situation. I suggested, and I continue to suggest, a bus stop type shelter at the entrance of the Downs, and with a traffic light, with walk and don't walk signs, so that the traffic has to stop when people want to cross, and the people have to stop when the traffic has to go. And just a side note, Redfield Parkway already has a lot of traffic with all of the apartments that are now at the VA. So I don't think we need any more additional traffic on Redfield.
Here, my name is James Owen, 2 Redfield Parkway. I'm a resident of Redfield. I'm a city resident. And I've indicated here, I hope the city can work with the town of Batavia and Batavia Downs not to close Park Road. And the reason why I say that very simply is that there are many people who come down Redfield. I know one lady said she came down one night and it took her 20 minutes to get back into her driveway, obviously because of a block on Park Road. They had that big wind situation, so they shut down Redfield, and this is Mr. Baker had the pleasure of taking pictures to find out that this caused a problem. So if the city can work with the town and Batavia Downs, it would be appreciated. And also, there are approximately 29 children that live on Redfield. And you know, children sometimes don't look right or left, and we don't want to see any child get hurt because of too much traffic and too much speeding on Redfield. And I thank you very much, and I hope you take this under consideration and that something can be worked out for the benefit of all, the Downs, the town, and the city, and especially the people on Redfield Parkway. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
And it'd be incumbent upon all of us. I live on Vernon Avenue, and the traffic is untenable now on Vernon and Richmond. So when that meeting occurs, it's incumbent again for all of us to show up to that meeting. But right now, thank you very much for coming in. I understand there's a petition being organized. We need to make sure that that is not just on Redfield, but the other streets also. Thank you very much, all of you.
Mr. Canal?
I too have received a number of public comments about the concern of the closing of Park Road. And, unfortunately, I feel very frustrated because we as a city, although it's going to affect us directly, don't have a final say in this. And so I would encourage everyone involved in the city to speak out to the town as well. I'm not sure how much of an effect that's going to have on their decision, but it's a little bit frustrating to know that there's going to be a major negative effect, and there will be a negative effect on the city streets because of an action that the town is about to take. So I would encourage everyone to speak out against this as well.
First, I just wanted to thank the GOR board members and staff for coming. I'm a former GOR member myself, so thank you for your advocacy. Congratulations, Jen, on your new position. And on the Park Road closure, just wanted to reiterate that the city has requested that OTV hosts a meeting for city residents in the city, as the first gentleman alluded to, a public meeting for city residents. So that request has been made, and we're going to try to make sure they live up to that request.
Mr. Molino, wasn't there something you mentioned about asking them to include the Redfield Parkway Street as part of their study, and that it might not have been studied properly, or is there something going on with
The
that?
correspondence that was sent last week was requesting that Batavia Downs have a public meeting for city residents in the city, and that the Redfield Parkway residents be notified of that when it takes place. That they consider expanding the traffic study to include streets beyond the Park and Richmond intersection going to Oak Street, because those side streets may be impacted. Those are the primary two requests in that correspondence.
Did they respond back about the study?
I have not received a response back.
Now, if they were to respond back and they did a study, would that impact on the traffic? Would that have some bearing on the final decision of approval for that closure?
You know, again, I think as I mentioned, the city doesn't really have a determining decision or a factoring decision in this process. There is the ability, as the seeker process begins, there is the ability for residents to create a record and place those comments on the record. The town will be the lead agency in that because it's in the town. So outside of that, you know, the point of seeing the study was to understand if there's a filter effect that will be distributed back in parallel streets to Redfield, Bogue, and so on and so forth, back to Oak Street. That's kind of the understanding. That was a request we had because it needed to be expanded. All the streets leading up to that intersection would most likely be impacted. So we want to get an understanding of what that impact is.
I mean, because it's kind of foreseen. You could see someone's going to have to get to Main Street, they're going to have to reroute. And there's no traffic signal on Main and Redfield anymore, so it's going to be a bottleneck as we've seen in the pictures. So, I mean, if that's a serious impact, I would hope the town would at least take that into consideration, because there may be future impact that we would do, and I would hope we would take that into consideration so we wouldn't affect that. So I think that's important we work together on it.
The town supervisor also received the letter as well.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Baker, can you describe those photographs that you showed council tonight? You took those?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Can you describe your observations that day?
It was like 25 cars deep waiting to turn onto West Main Street. And nobody was letting them in because there's signs at the end, at the West Main Street end of the Redfield Parkway that says don't block the intersection. And they always block the intersection. So nobody can get out. Even if there's 1 or 2 cars down there, there's always 1 or 2 cars. In this case, there was 25.
Park Road was closed for how long?
I'm not sure exactly how long it was closed, but it seems that it started closing at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it may have been closed on Friday afternoon. It may have been closed up until midday Saturday, but I'm not sure.
So this shows you what?
This shows me that there's going to be a lot of traffic on Redfield Parkway until cars find another way to go, and the other way to go are going to be the other southbound streets from Richmond to West Main. All residential streets, there's going to be nothing but speedways.
My request to the Downs was that all of the Redfield Parkway residents be personally notified, get a mailer to do that. So when that does happen, we'll definitely, we'll do press releases and make sure everybody's aware.
So I want to piggyback on the discussion there. Just talk about the traffic. What do we know and what do we anticipate? And are there traffic studies that show what the impact might be, or do you think traffic studies should be done by the city? Or
well, the traffic study that was done by the Downs, we have a copy of it. It can be made available for the public to view. It's probably part of also the secret documents that the town has. I think our concern is that the traffic study does not expand beyond the immediate project area. Specifically, from our perspective, it does not go down parallel streets, those parallel to Park, which would be Redfield, Bogue, Union, so on and so forth. So our request is that the traffic study be expanded to include Oak Street, Route 98 and Oak Street, to see where some of that additional traffic is going to dissipate to.
What can the city do about this, Jason?
I think the biggest thing is be part of the dialogue and be part of the design dialogue and request some of this additional information, and then be able to request that this issue, if there are changes or proposed changes that the city wants to see, is try to champion those with the 2 parties, that being with the Downs and the town of Batavia. I mean, part of it is going to be developing a relationship and communicating that and trying to work through some of these concerns.
But just to be clear to city residents, does the city have any authority in this?
Technically, the city does not have a decision to make with respect to the closure of Park Road, no.
so, would there, Mr. Baker and a couple other speakers talked about a previous closure that rerouted a lot of traffic onto Redfield Parkway. Is there any lessons that can be learned from that?
Well, there's several lessons. I think the obvious is that people are concerned that with that closure, that's going to be the type of traffic congestion that could take place. That has some merit to it. It was an emergency. On the flip side, it was an emergency detour. Emergency detours are going to cause traffic congestion because no one has time to plan around it. So to a certain extent, while some of that may be true, some of it may not be if it was a well-known closure ahead of time. Those are hard. One incident is hard to judge. I think it definitely creates awareness, which is important to focus on. I mean, there's an awareness of this street was closed, this is what's being proposed to be closed, so let's try to make sure that if there is a negative impact, we understand exactly what it is, where it's going to be, and can it be mitigated before the project is finalized.
So you're suggesting if it was a permanent closure, people would learn to adjust, not necessarily in the most immediate way that the response to them, but they're going to plan ahead.
They might plan ahead. Like I said, many times traffic is like water. It's going to dissipate to the path of least resistance. What will probably happen is you will see congestion not only on Redfield, but other parallel streets to that moving back towards Oak Street. So while I don't think it may be a direct indication of what will happen exactly on that street, it probably will add to congestion in that area. So I think that's what we've requested the traffic study include.
Do you think that, that with Notre Dame High School and the Batavia High football field, and I'm over there a lot,
Yep.
that can be a really congested area.
Absolutely.
Do you think the traffic study has taken that into consideration, or is that a concern you want to raise with the town?
That's why I think the concern we want to raise is to have that expanded. You know, I mean, those are incident, you know, those are specific events that cause that congestion, primarily because there just isn't a parking capacity to handle it. But it needs to be thought about when you're talking about Richmond, that really gets probably is the third highest traveled street in the city of Batavia, next to Main Street and Elgin.